Hey guys, in our last lesson when we talked about translations, we talked a little bit about words that represented multiplication, subtraction, division, all those. Okay, today we're going to talk about words that represent equations or inequalities. Okay, so we're going to dive right into these words that are for equations and inequalities. Alright, so first let's go ahead and talk about words that are the same thing as equation. So if you see these words, you know that the word problem is talking about equations. So you could have words such as is, or equals to, or sold for if you're looking at some type of problem that has to do with selling merchandise. Okay, so if you have is, equals to, or sold for, you know that the problem is talking about an equation. Okay? But if you see words such as the following, it's going to be talking about inequalities. Okay? So if you see the problem say is less than, or if it says is greater than, is less than or equal to, and is greater than or equal to. Okay, so if your problem refers to any of these four different things, you know that it's going to be talking about inequalities. Okay, so you need to take a look at these and familiarize with the different words that are the synonyms of equations or inequalities. Okay, so we're going to go through a couple of examples and make sure that you know what type of words go with each. Okay, so for example, let's look at the first one. It says a number x is decreased by 4 is less than or equal to 18. So let's pick out some keywords. Okay, it says a number x. Okay, so we know that means a variable, or x. Decreased by, remember in our last lesson we learned that decreased by stands for subtraction. And then we know 4 is just 4. Okay, and then it says is less than or equal to. That should give us our key for our inequalities. Okay, so is less than or equal to gives us our inequalities. So we have our less than or equal to sign. And then of course it just says 18. So we can plug in our 18. Okay, so number 1 gives us this example that ends up being an inequality that we could solve. We're going to learn how to do those later. But it just gives you from that sentence into this math expression. Numero 2. Okay, so number 2, let's look for some keywords again. This time it says the product of 11. Okay, so we know we're going to be talking about 11. We know we're going to be talking about multiplication. Okay, so it says the product of 11 and a number. Okay, so we know that a variable is multiplied by 11, so we have 11 times x, or 11x, is, remember is stands for equals. Okay, we just learned that a second ago. So is stands for equals, and that's set equal to 33. Okay, so we have 11x equals 33. We'll learn how to solve those in our solving linear equations unit. Okay, so let's try a couple more. You just gotta get the hang of these, and you'll end up getting them. They're not so bad after a while. Okay, so let's look for our keywords in number 3. This time it says the sum of, remember sum refers to addition. It says the sum of 7 and a number. Okay, so sum of 7 and a number, so we're going to add 7 and a number just being any variable. We're going to choose x. And then it says is greater than, so that should key us for our inequalities. So So is greater than, it's going to be a alligator mouth pointing to the left. And then we have is greater than 53. Okay, so as you practice these, they'll get a little easier. You'll notice those keywords even quicker. Okay, let's try our last one on this page. It says the quotient of 40 and a number is 8. Okay, so quotient, we know that represents division. And it says the quotient of 40 and a number. So we have 40. And we know that 40 is divided by a number, which is a variable. And we know that that is set equal to something because it has is. Is represents an equal sign. And it's set equal to 8. Okay? So we could easily go ahead and solve that equation, but we're not at that point yet. Okay, so go ahead and look over all these different problems. Make sure that you can identify which words represent equations and which words represent inequalities, and be able to apply those to any of these 4 examples that we've gone through. Alright, I got an awesome joke for you. I'm sure you'll think it's rather thrilling. Okay, so what do you call a girl with no arms and no legs sitting on the kitchen shelf? Think about it. Think about it. Pam. I hope you get it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started on these examples. These aren't so bad, you just have to learn your different keywords and be able to apply them to the sentence. Okay, so let's take a look at the first one. It says 19 times a number is 52. Okay, so we know that 19 is 19. And we know times represents multiplication. So we got multiplication. A number represents a variable. Or let's say it's n this time. And then is, remember we learned that in the previous slide, that is represents represents an equal sign. And then we just have 52. So let's write this a little cleaner since my handwriting is terrible. So you could rewrite that as 19n equals 52. Okay, then we could easily solve that as an equation if we wanted. Okay, numero 2. It says the quotient of, remember quotient represents division, the quotient of 165 and a number, so we know we have 165 and we had the quotient of that and a number, is, remember is means equals, less than or equal to, that should key us for our inequalities, so we have less than or equal, okay, is less than or equal to 5. Okay, so is less than or equal to refers to a less than or equal to sign, so that's why we put that there and not the equal sign. My mistake. Okay, last one, we're going to talk about the difference between 17 and a number will be 5. Okay, so it says the difference between 17 and a number. So we have 17, difference means subtraction. So the difference between 17 and some variable, we'll call it m this time. And it says will be, remember will be is another word for equals. And we know that all that equals 5. Okay, so here's just 3 more examples where you can practice your math terms and be able to translate a sentence into a mathematical expression. Okay, so let's go through a couple of scenarios. Okay, so it says you and your friend go to a video store to buy DVDs on sale for $13 each. That includes tax. Okay, it says together you spend $78. How many DVDs do you and your friends buy? Okay, so it says that your DVDs are on sale for $13 each. Remember, each is a word that represents multiplication. Okay, so 13 each. And we're going to say that that's some variable. Okay, so $13 each, and you know that you're going to spend $78. So you're going to spend $78, so you're going to set the whole thing equal to 78. So you know that 13 times x gives you 78. All right? Eventually we'll learn how to solve those. All right. Okay, so this time it says the Science Club is selling magazine subscriptions for $15 each. How many subscriptions does the club have to sell to raise $300? Okay, so let's go ahead and set up an equation. We know that the subscriptions are $15 each, and we know that they have to raise $300. Okay, so that's our equation. We need to know how many they have to sell to make 300. Okay, so what times 15 do we need to get to 300? Okay, so if you multiply 15 times 20, that equals 300. So to make their goal of $300, they would have to sell 20 magazine subscriptions. Okay, fairly simple. All right, we got 2 more examples, and then we're going to go ahead and call it good for the day. Okay, so this is just going ahead and translating a few more. Okay, so this time let's look at our keywords. It says what number, meaning a variable, x, is meaning equals 17%. Okay, so we have 17%, and we're going to write our percents as decimals. So write this in the note. Percents should be decimals. Okay, so percent should be decimals. Okay, so if we have 17%, that means we have 0.17. And then it says of, remember of is a key word for multiplication, of 54. Okay, so you should have x equals 0.17 times 54. And let's go to the last one. Okay, so we have 135%. And we need to change that to a decimal, so move it over 2 spots. And that gives you 1.35. Of 82, of represents multiplying, so times 82. Is represents our equals. And what number, of course, is going to be your variable. Okay, so you should have that equation written out. Okay, if you are not familiar with all these different words, you can go back to the last 2 lessons and you can take a look at those. Okay, I hope you guys have a great night. See you tomorrow. Bye.